Want to do a follow-up to the video I did showing how to kind of take Bob Clearmountain's approach to mixing Atmos and stereo at the same time and putting it into Pro Tools or whatever DAW you choose. Today, I'm going to adapt that approach to make it work a little easier in Pro Tools. And you're going to see that it is very, very simple. There's really just one tiny little change I need to make on doing this. And this approach, this is actually what I used when I was first getting started in Atmos, because I wanted to do stereo and Atmos together pretty much right from the start because I'd been inspired by Bob. But this kind of worked a little better. So let's take a look at what I did. Hey, I want to jump in here real quick. I've had people asking for this for a long time. So if you want to get your hands on a template that will let you mix Atmos and stereo, I have a template based on what you're seeing in this video. It is available now for sale. There is a link below in the description. If you want to pick that up, you can follow the link, and purchasing it helps support the channel. So let's get back to the video. If you missed the first video I did on this, I suggest you go and check it out because I talked about how I set everything up in there, and I'm going to be referring back to some of those buses and things that we did in that video. Okay, so what did I do here? Very, very simple. Originally, we had all of our audio, it was routed to the mix bus. The main busing output for each channel was going to the mix bus. Now I've switched it so that the main send is going to that Atmos mix bus. And again, these are all the same. It's the same buses we had before. Got the mix bus. We've got our Atmos mix bus. Haven't changed any of that stuff. I'm just changing routing here. So main pan goes to the mix Atmos, and then where this send was originally going to the mix Atmos, now I'm sending to the stereo mix with that. And everything is back in follow main panner. So what does this do? This lets me kind of dial in the Atmos mix first if I want, or I could start with the stereo, just monitoring that. Now, the difference here, though, is the trims that I have available. In Bob's actual approach with his console, his trims will apply to his Atmos mix. In other words, he's got a send on his channel, basically, that's going to his different bus assignments, and he uses those bus assignments for panning. That was something I didn't mention in the other video. In the case of what I'm doing today, though, I just have this extra send to the stereo mix bus, and if I want to adjust something, I can do it there. Let's give this a listen, though. So this time I'm going to start with the Atmos. So it's going to be a binaural for you, so grab some headphones, and here is the Atmos. So right away, to me, this just feels better to me. And some of it is just because I prefer spending a little more time in the Atmos. And what I did was I went back, made these changes. I had to redo some of the panning because it didn't all copy over. But working in Atmos this way, it's a lot faster for me to do the panning because I have my little SoundFlow deck right here that will do the panning for me. I don't have to open all of these bus sends anymore to do panning twice. So now it's basically going to take anything that's panned on the left side of my Atmos mix, and it's just going to put that in the left side of the stereo, and then anything on the right side of the Atmos mix, and this includes the height channels, anything on that side, it's going to put on the right side of the stereo mix. So it just all folds down real easily. So now I'm going to play a little bit for you, and I'm just going to toggle back and forth between the Atmos and the binaural. So I'll start in the binaural, and then I will flip over to stereo. So to me, in headphones, when I checked it in the binaural, I prefer the binaural. It feels a little more open. And in fact, just to give you a sense of that, let me just solo up the keys for you. And we'll start in the binaural, and then I'll go back to stereo. So you can hear that definitely changes a bunch when you go into binaural, because with the keys, I've got a lot of stuff up in the height channels because it feels good in here to do that. Now, the other thing that is nice with this approach, and this is something that I actually did, we didn't do anything with objects in the last one. Getting at objects with this approach is a whole lot easier because I can just do it right on the channel. To do it in the other approach, I would have had to route to the objects, and we had made some different buses for that. And then I would have to go down and do panning on those buses. Well, I don't have to do that anymore. So with this keys track right here, I've got the panner going, and I sent it to an object, and you can see. So I've got a little bit of an auto pan going on this, and that just gives it a little tiny bit of movement. It's not over the top, I don't think, but it shifts things just a little bit to kind of help with some of that immersive feeling. Now, if I don't like that in the stereo, it's real easy for me to fix this. So with the stereo bus, if I play this right now, you can see these panners going. If I don't like that kind of movement, though, I can just turn that off, pan it wide, and now it won't move. But the Atmos panner, which you can see right here, will continue to go. And again, if I think that the level of this in the stereo mix, if it's too loud, I can turn it down here. If it's not loud enough now, I can trim it up, so I can make adjustments for that stereo mix. I don't use this approach anymore when I'm mixing in Atmos because I just use the stereo direct or the 2.0 direct, depending on what your DAW is calling it. This is something that came into the Dolby Atmos renderer, I don't know, a few months ago. It was earlier this year, and it pretty quickly made its way into the DAW versions of the renderer. And I like that fold down for stereo. So I basically spend most of my time using that for the stereo, and I can flip back and forth between the Atmos and the stereo. If I was running into a lot of issues with mixes where I felt like I needed to trim things for the Atmos, then yeah, I would definitely want to go back to this approach. But right now, it hasn't really been a thing for me, and just using the 2.0 Direct has been working pretty good. So Anyways, this is just another way to approach kind of doing the Atmos and stereo at the same time. If you are new to Atmos, you're kind of nervous about doing all of that stuff at the same time, you still want control over the stereo, this is a good way, I think, to get your feet wet, to get started in having Atmos and stereo going in the same sort of session, and it'll still give you some of the control you may want in, having both of those mixes going and just being able to have a little faster workflow than mixing in stereo and then kicking out stems and then spending a whole bunch of time on the Atmos mix. I think this is a whole lot faster. You can have a whole lot more fun, in my opinion, working in Atmos. I mean, that's part of the draw for me. It just feels better and is a lot more fun to work that way. And then I can go in, if I need to tweak something, I can use this approach and tweak that stereo mix to make it work. Otherwise, just use the fold down. So if you're doing stereo and Atmos at the same time, please leave a comment. How are you doing it? If you're not doing it, why are you not doing stereo and Atmos at the same time? I would love to hear it. I'm sure you've got good reasons. So please leave a comment below. But thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.